Hey everyone, thank you for joining us for the next episode of our FabCon and SQLCon recap series. My name is Anna. I'll be your producer for this session. I'm an event planner for Reactor, joining you from Redmond, Washington. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, and hi, we see you in there right now, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional, and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our awesome moderators to answer live. Our session is being recorded. It will be available to view on demand right here on the Reactor YouTube channel. With that, I'd love to turn it over to our experts for today. Thank you both so much for joining.
G'day, how are you? Great to be here. Welcome to Maximizing Developer Experience in Fabric. I'm with Mike and I'm Martin. So let's get into this. So I am Martin Catterall. I'm based in Brisbane, Australia, Microsoft Data Platform MVP and trainer. And I was also at the FabCon conference this year where these slides were presented. So let's hand over to my fellow presenter, Mike. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing fine. Good morning, Marty, and good evening for me. And I'm sure it's something different for everybody else. I'm joining from a town just outside of Columbia, South Carolina, USA. I've been doing Microsoft Fabric for 2 years, Power BI for probably 8 or 9 years now, and SQL Server all the way back to 6.5 back in the mid 1990s. So a lot of data experience, and really excited to see the things that are coming out to make Fabric a little better for people with our kind of background.
Nice one, Mike. Do you want to tell us who our moderators are?
Absolutely. Well, so we've got Heidi Hastings out here. I had the pleasure of meeting her at FabCon. She's a 5-year MVP. Walter Calcagno is a 7-year MVP. And Michael Morse, I did not get the chance to meet him yet, but I do know from some chats in his LinkedIn profile that he's a fellow DBA type person like myself. So a little bit of thumbs up there.
That's great, Mike. That's great. So our audience, please tell us where you're from. Remember, we've got 3 great moderators. So type in the chat, ask questions. If you see something in the slide that we may not have gone over in so much detail, feel free to type in the chat any question you want. We've got 3 absolutely fabulous moderators here. But let's get back to our main content. So this is part of a series where we're recapping exactly what happened at FabCon. We're going through some of the slides to do with the core notes. So the slides you're seeing here are the slides that were presented in the series at FabCon. Now the only difference is we've got a bit of shorter time, not as much time as they had at FabCon, but the deck is exactly the same. So we might flick through a few slides. If you, like I say, if you see something on the slide that we haven't covered in the depth that you want it to cover, ask the moderators. So, Mike.
Yeah, and one quick comment. This session is recorded. So even if we go through it quickly, you can watch this deck, you can watch this presentation again, and you can take all the time you need on that slide. And again, speaking of FabCon, last March, just last month, was my first FabCon, and it was amazing. And this year, 2027, next year, they're going to be holding it again in Atlanta, Georgia, at the World Congress Center. Again, great event. Wear very good, comfortable walking shoes. It's a huge arena area, so a lot of walking, but it was fantastic. And as the slide says, registration is already open. So it's never too early to start making plans for next March.
That's right. That's right. Plan early, plan ahead. I enjoyed myself there. And like I say, as well as the content we're doing now, we've got Fabric Data Days a monthly. The next session's on April the 28th. We're running through these bit by bit. So stay tuned and enjoy.
All right. And yeah, wanted to talk about the Fabric user panels. I don't know, Martin, if you had a chance to do one yet. I did one on data warehouse. It was fantastic. You follow the link there. Maybe somebody can drop it in the chat. But it's just an opportunity to speak to somebody about things that you like, things that you would like to see some improvements on in various topics. I mean, I happen to pick data warehouse because that's my area, but I've had invites for RTI. I've had invites for notebooks. So it's just, you get the invitation. If you want to follow up on it, you get like a 1 hour interview where you just say your piece on that topic. And if things work out, you might see some of your ideas showing up in the product.
That's great, Mike. I actually have took part in these, and I really like the way that the team that you communicate with is really open to the feedback, whether that's good feedback, suggestions on how to improve and all that sort of thing. So, if you're new to Fabric or know someone who is, they need your feedback. So, scan the link and away you go. But I think the first thing we should do here, Mike, is get into our content. So let's start with maximizing the developer experiences inside of Microsoft Fabric. Okay, so as probably most people on this in the audience are aware, every developer, whether they're full stack developer, whatever, is becoming a data developer. Data, I think all of our applications kind of run on data. It's kind of hard to think of an application that's not data driven, even if a simple calculator is driven by numbers and all that sort of thing. And now we're moving into the area of LLM based development and all that sort of thing. But we got some stats on the screen there. 55% of software engineering teams will be actively building applications with LLMs within the next year. 30% of LFM-based enterprise projects will be abandoned due to poor data integration and grounding challenges. So just some stats there that may really say, people need to lift their game a little bit, and the products are there to help them. Do you agree, Mike?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing. There's just, every time I turn my head, there's another MCP server ready to help me with another task.
It is indeed. And I guess that's one of the things that are helpful for us on the one hand, all these LLMs, and they're just a challenge to get used to, doing the correct prompts and all that sort of thing. But, data tools come with new challenges for developers, fragmented data across different tools. You've got integration challenges. Sometimes you've got that friction across data to manage data governance. You've got maybe data governance with one tool in one area, different things in different areas, and merging them together can sometimes be a challenge. We got limited visibility into maybe failures, performance monitoring. We're going to talk a bit about performance and monitoring as we get through this, and hopefully that will help you engage with your teams and build better solutions. So Microsoft Fabric, I'm pretty sure a lot of people will have seen this slide before. There's a lot of not silos, a lot of different solutions that you can apply. You got data engineering, got analytics, databases. This time last year, SQL Server was just coming into Microsoft Fabric. Now it's gone GA, and we've got familiar SQL Server inside Microsoft Fabric. Real-time intelligence is making a great headway. I would say a few years ago, most people were still doing batch processing, and obviously a lot of people still are doing batch processing, but we're seeing a big uptick in real-time intelligence, and Fabric makes it quite straightforward to get going with that, to set up something that can ingest data that's just coming in the stream and putting that to a database and examining it in real time. We got a new kid on the block, Fabric IQ. Merging with your business streams to make your business language more open to your technical resources. And of course, we've got the Star Wars has been there for a long time. We've got Power BI. And now all of these are underpinned by OneLake, together with Copilot and that admin and governance provided by Purview. So what is Fabric's promise to developers? Relying on consistent open file formats, things like Apache Spark to to navigate your data, open formats, and that sort of thing. Obviously, full access to life cycles. Fabric CLI, you can integrate with your solutions there. You can also talk to REST APIs. Pretty much everything around Azure Fabric is controlled through a REST API. So anything you can do through the UI, you can do through a REST API. So you can program pretty much everything. And that might help with your CI/CD deliveries. Talking to CI/CD, we've got tools like Terraform to provision and manage your deployments. And these can reproduce workspace environments and integrate with Git. So Git integration has come a long way, and we're going to talk about that as we go through the developer tools. Obviously, source control is a massive part of any development lifecycle. So the end-to-end journey in Microsoft Fabric is about setting up your project, about developing. Obviously, there's an iterative cycle here. You need to set things up initially, but then you need to develop piece by piece and push your work through the various environments, from development to testing to UAT to production. Some people might have more environments, some people might have less, but at the end of the day, you're probably going to have at least development and production. And then lastly, we're going to monitor and operate as things go to BAU. What do you think, Mike? That's how you follow your development life cycle, is it?
That is how I follow some of my development life cycle. Again, we're going to see with so many announcements, there are things out there just announced that I'm still exploring. But absolutely, let's get right into the first one that I have had a little experience with, which is Terraform.
Yeah.
There we go. Lost my slide there. So Terraform is an open source product, not a Microsoft product, but Microsoft has put in connectors so that you can use Terraform inside of Fabric. It's a great tool, especially if you're a larger organization where you've got to do the same thing repeatedly. You know, maybe you've got a standard where every time you build a new workspace, you always set up that, bronze lake house, silver lake house, maybe a gold warehouse or lake house. And you maybe set up a certain set of schemas and all these things. Terraform, they call it infrastructure as code, but this is an opportunity for you to lay this stuff out ahead of time. And it has its own language called HCL, which lets you set up variables so that you can, have a pattern. Like, hey, I'm going to make a marketing workspace, and I'm going to make an HR workspace. I'm going to make another, the donor engagement workspace, and you can have these parameters work through and set up each workspace with a similar setup that meets your company standards. We can go on to the next one there, Marty. Also, this is a big announcement, GA for the Fabric command line interface. What's really nice about this is not only is it generally available, but it started out as an open source project, I believe, that Microsoft, it is an open source project, but Microsoft has brought this in-house. It's generally available, and one of the best parts about it is you don't need to do anything. If you open up a Fabric notebook, it's just there. You don't need to pip install. It's ready to go. And then something that we do in our environment is we run some Azure DevOps pipelines. And a great thing with this is that the CLI commands are all available within the Fabric pipelines and the Terraform. You can run that in here. So if we can move on to the next screen, I think we have a quick demo. Oh, no, we don't, because I didn't talk about, sorry about that. Two more things. So also GA is workspace identity. And this is something that we use a great deal at my organization, because we have a lot of stuff that before we moved to Fabric, we were doing a lot of data factory and had things on ADLS Gen 2. Well, with the workspace identity, that was just a really easy way for us to hook Fabric to our ADLS Gen 2 storage, and just almost a straight lift and shift of our data factory pipelines into Fabric. And we already had connections to that data out there.
Yeah, that's great to hear about those workspace identities, Mike. Tell us about Fabric MCPs.
Yeah, and we alluded to this a little bit earlier. So there are the local MCP is GA, as you see on the screen. There's also a remote MCP. So between these, you can do things like literally talk to your data through your AI agent, or you can do maintenance on your workspace. You can set up new lake houses, do basically maintenance of those items. And also I've used the Power BI modeling MCP locally. That's a great tool. And not on the slide, but I think I just read that there's a data factory MCP. So there's an MCP for everything. And if there isn't one, just wait, it'll be there. So these are great ways to let your AI tools talk to these your products and actually help you do some of this work.
Great stuff.
Yeah. All right. If we can go ahead, I think well, this is just basically showing us a project setup. Not a lot of detail I want to get into here, but just to say that this is what our target is going to be. We're going to have a demo just in a couple more slides. If we can go to the next slide, Marty. You can see what this is showing us is that we're actually going to use DevOps, where it already has all these definitions for the items we're going to build. It's going to use the Fabric CLI, and it's going to use Terraform to take basically nothing. You're going to see in the demo starts that we're going to go from completely empty workspaces to populated workspaces with data. And here we go. If you can go ahead and give that a push.
I will. I'll play away there, Mike.
All right. It'll be a little hard for me to keep up with the demo, but basically, like I said before, this is making use right here of the Terraform provider. You see where it talks about the Terraform version. They're just going through to make sure everything's good to go. Let's go ahead and give that a run. And what you'll see is it's going to go through the initial planning steps. We're not going to see the actual Terraform code. You would have to have written this ahead of time, but it's going to get everything all set up and let you review it. And again, very quickly, look where you see it's going to provision these workspaces, and we'll see later it's going to actually move data. It's hard to read this, so it's going to go by really fast, but they're running notebook jobs. They're populating the lake houses, and we're going to go again from nothing to a fully, built out workspace with data, with lineage. It handles everything. It sets up all your variable library settings. It can handle it all. If you can click it and drag it and do it in the UI, you can probably do it between the CLI and Terraform and have this stuff built up ahead of time for you. Let's see where we're at. And again, less than 2 minutes ago, this workspace did not exist. Here it exists, not just the workspace, but all these items. And we'll see the lineage here. Everything's connected together. And I think very briefly, we're going to show you the structure, but also we're going to see that we've actually got tables populated with data because it actually ran some of that ingestion steps as part of the DevOps pipeline. All right.
This is fabulous, yep. Mike. This is fabulous.
And that's it. We can roll on.
That is pretty cool. So end-to-end developer, nice one, Mike. So we've done the end-to-end developer, and we're moving on to developer workflows. So Mike just showed the development going on there, checking out that sort of thing. But branching is a really obviously big feature of any development lifecycle. And this is now integrated directly into Fabric. So once we've got our code in a Git repository, we've likely got, well, we definitely have got a main branch. Maybe it's called something else with you, but in this situation, we'll just say it's a main branch. As we develop, like I might be working on one particular feature, Mike might be working on another feature. Maybe we want to branch our code. So I could pull out my branch, Mike could pull out his branch, and we can work independently of each other and then merge them later into our integration workspace. pretty much in the same sort of way as you might do if you're developing like C# on your desktop or any other development on your desktop. You'd go through that traditional cycle of pulling the latest down, creating a branch, doing your work, pushing it back to the repository, and then merging it. And you can do all of that now from within the Fabric UI. So yeah, now we'll just see how you can do that. We can see here, it's a pre-recorded demo where we're checking out the Git branch. We're giving it a name, typing in, and this is all from within the workspace. What are we going to do? Workspace, do we need a new workspace? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. And then we can hit branch out. We can select to name different items different ways. Obviously, then we've got to choose what exactly we do on a branch. What are we going to be working on? And we can pick with our Fabric items. They've got the well-known icons next to them. And then we're creating our branch. So very similar to how you work with Git at the command line. You can do the same kind of process. It's just within the UI, within Fabric at the moment. So, and we can see there we've got our workspace branched off from our main workspace there. We can see related branches. So obviously the branch that we've just created, the add table 14, is a sub branch of our main. And later on, that's going to be merged back into the main branch. Any of the notebooks that we've checked out as well, we can work in there. We can add different cells to our notebook before we go check it back in. Obviously, add our different code. In this case, Apache Spark or Python code we can add. And then we can see what has changed. Select what we've changed and commit it to our branch. So now we're going to commit it and push it back up to the main repository. Any additional items we need to check in. Oh, sorry, I used the old terminology, check in. Any items we need to push or commit, we can do so. And then finally, we update. And we can see our new artifact is in the table. And then we can set up our pipelines to push it to our new environment if we wish to do so, which obviously once we've made a change in development, we obviously do want to progress it through to test. It obviously gets tested in a familiar way. Obviously, if it passes, it goes on to the next environment. If it doesn't, it comes back to dev and we do some more work in a similar fashion to how we've just checked out our branch and done the work here. And going through that cycle, obviously, will then result in a good piece of code that can be pushed all the way through to production. Job done. Great work by the team to get this up and running in Fabric here. So I'm just having a few issues here with my environment, but yeah. So just to recap, we've got the Git integration enhancements there, all in Fabric, all GA. Branch out for specific features and pull only the items you required. So selective branching within the UI itself. So easy to review code changes so you can see what's changed since the last sync and see how the branched workspaces relate back to their source branches. So obviously we might have a particular workspace. We want to branch that workspace into a new workspace before we then merge it back with our completed code changes. We've also got variable libraries. So we've seen some of those right at the end. So easily reference other items within Fabric while increasing the permission validation with item references and variable types. Well, I've always found these initially when they come out, I found them a bit tricky to work with, but now they've had a lot of enhancements and they are more kind of user friendly. You can see like that people were referencing sort of GUIDs. Well, now you can reference the actual name. So referencing a name, obviously way more user-friendly than referencing a particular GUID. No one remembers what GUIDs are, but we can have deployment parameterization as well, which adds significantly to the ease of deployments through various artifacts. One of my favorite features, and I used these a lot when they first came into private preview, is task flows. So we can see there on the screen, we've got a visual representation of the task flow. And that's like visually representing the phases that our development go to. We might pull it from our source through a pipeline. We might put it to a warehouse, and those little boxes all represent the various stages that we've gone through on our journey. So the end-to-end development journey is actually becoming cleaner. It's becoming more integrated with kind of the processes that most people are used to on-prem, and you can do it all from within the UI of Fabric. Do you find yourself, Mike, has this become easier for you? How do you feel about all these changes?
Yeah, one of my favorites is that selective branching. If you have a workspace with 200 items in it, and you just want to change one notebook, I just want to, change one notebook. I don't want to copy 200 items over to a new area. And also that variable you mentioned, how you can bring the item in, not the idea. I'm tired of copying and pasting GUIDs, and not just a copying and pasting, but I can't look at it. Even if I open up my library, all I see is like, well, this is different than that. It's different from that. So I guess they're the right thing because they're different. I don't know what they are.
I certainly hope so. It's a great point you make there. But okay, so now we've checked out, we've merged, we've done things, but we need to deploy to production. So Mike, tell us all about deploying to production.
All right. So again, we're going to move on into using Azure DevOps again. So Martin just showed us the developer workflow, just iterating on that code until you get that code the way you want it. And now if we can move on to the next slide, we'll add the rest of the story where we're going to use DevOps and also some new features we'll talk about in a minute to move this from the development area into a test branch and then into production. So if we can go ahead and move on there, Marty. One thing that's in public preview is, I don't know, Marty, if you've had these challenges, but we have some issues with ownership of items. And I'm really glad to see that Microsoft is addressing that, where you can set up service principals to own your lake houses and event streams, I think, or what I've heard right off the bat. Other things are coming. Go, please.
Yeah, I do like that. I do like that, Mike. The ownership is a big point. Like, the last thing you want is, like, say myself owning something, and then I leave the company and I leave someone like yourself in all sorts of bother because I've left, I've owned something, I've set something up that can't be changed. So you're dead right there, Mike. You're dead right. Sorry to interrupt, mate.
Oh no, especially for those things that only run once every week or every month. Somebody might be long gone before you realize that you forgot something and have a dependency. So that's a great thing that they've got coming along. This is also a new feature in public preview. You can use the REST API to import and export, as it says, multiple items. And one of the really great things about this process is that Fabric does a lot of the work for you, figures out the dependencies of the different items, and it deploys them in the right order. And you don't have to tell it what the right order is. It figures this stuff out. So a great feature, just another option. We have got many. We're rich with options here. If we can go on to the next slide, we'll see that they've also added a Fabric CI/CD library. This is the one I was kind of getting to earlier. This started out as an open source project that Microsoft has now kind of adopted and brought in-house. Still open source, but it's completely backed by Microsoft. That's a big deal. Not every organization is happy to build their deployment pipelines, their real production workloads on something that's open source without the backing of Microsoft. So not only is it a great tool, but it's a great tool that's fully Microsoft supported. And the CI/CD library in Python is part of the CLI. Like I mentioned before, the CLI, it's in all your notebooks. You don't need to pip install this or do anything. It's just you open up a notebook and these commands are available to you right off the go.
Right, that's really interesting. Like I have used this CLI a little bit, and obviously I've used other CLIs. But I guess you're telling me that this is now generally available. It looks like.
Yep. Yeah. People of our generation. I mean, this is what I grew up on. I mean, I started in DOS. I'm used to the CLI. Moved to the GUI. Now I'm kind of moving back. But there's a lot of power you get with these tools where you can use the CLI with your LLMs, your artificial intelligence. And also, again, you can use the CLI in Azure DevOps. So basically, this is just showing all the steps we covered with the idea that you can, in our example, Marty can code up his changes. He can get everything ready, send it to me. I can run it through Azure DevOps and move it into tests and production. So if we move on to the next slide, I think we've got a demo here to go.
Oh, yeah, I think we have, Mike. I think we have. Let's play the demo. Let's play the demo.
All right. So again, we're going to start out. Marty's already moved everything that he wants me to move into the test environment. So we're going to take from dev. We're going to push this into test. Again, using real quick, you see we're in Azure DevOps. We're not in Fabric. We're out in DevOps. So it's going to go ahead and build this process out. We are moving, Mike. We are moving. We're building it out at the moment. It's going a bit slow. But it's getting there. Like it's early in the morning where I am. Sorry. Yeah, it's my dinner time and Marty's breakfast. Well, this demo. Let's go ahead and let's jump there. Lucky for us, I think I've got another demo right behind this that's essentially the same thing. Let's see if we can get that one to run.
Right, okay, let's have a look at this, Mike. Let's have a look at this. Yeah.
All right. So I was actually going to skip this one because it's almost a duplicate, but we'll use this as our backup. We like redundancy here. So we're going to pretend that we got everything into test. And now, we've taken our look. We've run a few notebooks. We've made sure that, hey, we've got records. The record counts look good. The values look good. Now we're going to move this into production. And we'll see that that's basically what this DevOps pipeline is doing here.
Yep, sure is.
And so again, it's just going to go through and just confirm that we've got data in there where we want it.
Yep.
Yeah, here we go. And so basically, again, this was using the Azure DevOps with the CLI, and it was able to move everything from dev to test. Trust me, it moved it to test, and then we got her into production.
Looks good. So we've got to our destination at the end of the day. It took us a while, but we got there.
Yes. There's always got to be something in a live demo to make it exciting.
It is. So we're getting through the life cycle, Mike. We've set the project up, gone through how we would go by setting it up. We've seen the developer workflow, how we work through things, creating a new branch, moving our code into production. And thanks a lot for telling us that. But once it's in production, that isn't quite the end of the story. Obviously, we might hand it over to BAU then or something like that. And they need to monitor and they need to operate the solution. So if there's a problem, they need to know about it. If they want to know how it's being used, if features are not being used, if features are being used but they're breaking, they need to know all those things. So how do they go about doing that? Let's play a demo and let's have a look. So they might want to see their see the lake houses, see what's going on there. And then we go to our monitoring workspace, where we could see a nice flash Power BI report or Power BI like report, showing us things like our total jobs, our success rate, and that sort of thing. We can query that data because obviously that data is displayed as a nice display, but behind the scenes, it's all in a KQL database, and we can query that as we see fit. We can see a KQL query there, and we can add a rule. We're adding a rule over on the left-hand side to say, if something happens, we want to know about it. If a threshold is hit, if the data we're seeing is outside particular bounds, send us some sort of alert. And the scope of these alerts can be quite large, really. I mean, obviously you can do things within Fabric, but you can also do things with Power Automate, and from there you can really do whatever you like with the alert. You don't just have to settle for an email or a Teams alert or something like that. So okay, but so that's workspace monitoring. Monitor the status and analyze the job's performance. We can monitor these copy jobs, and we can troubleshoot, and we can analyze them. And this is actually in public preview at the moment. And from the workspace monitoring dashboard, we can see various dashboards that are basically semantic models, and log into the event house from there. So one of the things we did see there was writing a KQL query, and from that query we were creating an alert to basically say this is inside or outside or whatever. It's hit an event that we want to know about. Maybe we didn't see data for the last minute if we're doing real time. Maybe we're monitoring our real time feed coming in, and we've seen that a value is higher than it should be. We want to probably log that, but above and beyond logging it, depending on how critical it is, we'll maybe want to alert, maybe a Teams message, maybe something flashes on the screen, draws our attention to it. Hey, this has gone wrong. You need to go look at it. And of course, usage logs and things like that are great to see, and seeing those is fabulous. Now, here's a feature, Mike, that has been long awaited. I've seen a lot of people ask for it: soft deletes and recovery. Let me ask you a question, Mike. Have you ever deleted something and then thought, I really shouldn't have done it?
That's a very polite way of saying what I was thinking when I delete something I shouldn't have. But yes, absolutely. But it's just like hitting leave the meeting when you meant to stop sharing. But no, I absolutely have lost some things in Fabric and really regretted that day. Obviously, if you have things in source control, you got some backup. But this is a great feature.
That's right. I mean, well, I guess we've all been brought up with the recycle bin there in Windows, and we're used to deleting a file and getting it back from the recycle bin, and that concept has just come through into Fabric now. So things will sit; they're not like deleted straight away. So you can recover accidentally deleted items with a simple click of a button. Your tenant's admin, they can define a retention period. And that retention period can last from like 7 days, which is the lower limit, up to 90 days, which is the upper limit. And those deleted items just sit in what's called a workspace recycle bin, and they can be brought back at any time during that period of 7 to 90 days. Now, obviously, this kind of is another mechanism on top of your source control. So if you're using source control, which you absolutely should be, and I absolutely hope you are, all those things, you'd be able to get them back from source control anyway. But that might involve a bit more of a process than simply retrieving them from the recycle bin through this item soft delete and recovery. So that's a great feature that's come into Fabric. Maybe not something that you'll use all the time, but maybe a feature that could save you one day if you delete something that you are not really meant to. But Mike, Are you going to tell us about jump-starting our Fabric journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go there. So this is again brand new. See the slide. I have taken some time to look at this. There are 16 different products out there. We're seeing this little demo here. Actually, Marty, if we can go ahead and move into the next slide. But this is all one-click Python, open source.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, you got one more before we get to the demo. So I guess let's just hit this real quick. Again, links are. Oh, did we skip?
I've jumped ahead a little bit, Mike. I think.
There we go. Whoop.
The wonders of
No.
technology.
Yeah.
We'll just go with this. Hang on a minute. Okay, sorry about this. I'm back to the start. We're jump starting our Fabric journey again. I'll just go through to where we were up to. So you talked about jump starting here.
All right. So anyhow, it looks like we're missing a slide, but that's all right. If we can go back to the last one, let's just let that, it's not the full demo. Let's let that just play while we talk about it. Yeah, this is where the demo.
Certainly will.
Is there a play button there?
There should be in a minute, mate.
Here we go. Let's just let this one roll in the background. Again, the key things are there are 16 already featured jump starts. I took a look at this last night. I will admit that I need work on my RTI, real-time intelligence stuff, and there is a boatload of stuff out there on real-time intelligence. And the best part is you just need to go to this website. It's going to give you you pick the card, pick the one you want, and it's going to give you a 3 or 4 line little set of Python script to drop into one of your notebooks. Then you just hit run, and it will set up everything. It will build the lake houses. It will build the warehouses. It will build the event houses. It will build the notebooks. It just gives you everything. And this is professional, good code, good practices all built in. So again, I'm going to be spending some time out there doing some of the RTI jump starts, because that's an area that I still need to dig into a little bit more.
I think these jump starts are really good. Mike, a lot of people concentrate on certifications, which is absolutely fabulous. But as a kind of way of getting into those certifications or starting your journey, these jump starts are really valuable. And you're not under pressure. You can sit there on your own. You can go through them. You can work out what worked, what didn't work. You do them again, that sort of thing. I find that really valuable to go through.
Yeah, I agreed. And again, it's real quality code. Something you might not always get from your AI. You're hoping it delivers, but it's nice to have something to just go reference.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of reference code around where you can just look at it. You can work through it yourself. Did this way. You'd even take it and use it in your production code. It's all up to you. But doing that sort of thing, I find is really valuable. So I like the way, there's one catalog, one-click installs via a Python library, open source, built for the community. I think this is all very good. And I think it says that coming soon, you'll be able to install these natively via the Fabric UI.
Hey, Marty, I think I just heard that Miles Cole, who is one of the product manager for the Jumpstart, he has jumped in. Hey, there he is.
Okay. That is fabulous. Does he?
So here's your chance. If anybody has a question about the jump starts, you've got the person right there in the chat ready to answer anything. And you have a question about DevOps? Talk to Heidi. We've got some real pros in the chat today. This is wonderful.
Really good catch there, Mike. Knowing who's come to the chat, who's in there. So get your questions in there. Heidi's good as well on this, as are all our other moderators there. So yeah, fabulous. Remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, unfortunately, you're not going to have the time. Well, the chat isn't available. So that's a great reason to come to these live and see what's going on. You get people like Miles from the product team in the chat, ready to answer your questions straight away. So got to say thanks for jumping on there. But Mike, developers at FabCon, what did you think of the announcements generally?
Yeah, so we're doing this in a 1 hour session. I went to a 8 hour session on some of the developer experiences. It's just amazing. Again, all the things you can do with AI, with the MCPs, so many announcements. Again, 1 hour quick run, but I spent 8 hours. And it still, I felt like I was drinking from a fire hose. There was so much information. So this is just great to see. I think, Fabric is really starting to come out from being like, yeah, it can kind of do this and it can kind of do that, and you can make it work in production. We certainly have, but it's missing this or it's missing that. It just feels like they're really starting to color in, fill in some of those gaps. And I really like, having been a developer, that clicky, draggy, droppy is great, but it's nice to be able to back it up and get down and do some code also. Everybody.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right here. I look back at the Power BI development lifecycle, which, Power BI now is 10 years old. So I guess people picked it up when it first came out and it was very popular. And it sort of hit a point where it went from being popular to really popular and then kind of took off. And I think we're probably at that inflection point with Fabric at the minute. And the last conference in Atlanta that we were both at, I think we've seen a lot of announcements. So a lot of things starting to come together and gel into that cohesive environment where, makes a developer's life easy, but not just a developer's life easy. Things like the monitoring, things that are needed to support people and processes and applications and solutions in production themselves. So I really like that. And I'm looking forward to the future. I think there's a lot of good things going to come out in the future, and really looking forward to those, Mike.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, the move to Fabric, again, we were a Power BI shop, but we did a lot of work in Data Factory first. And that was just like two separate camps that didn't overlap a whole lot. But now with Fabric, the pipelines, they're in the same workspace as the notebooks. They're in the same workspace. Potentially as your semantic models and your reports, or you might want to split those out. But again, you can have all this stuff visible to your whole team and not kind of have all the work done on one side and throw it over the wall to people that have no idea how you got that data ready. So again, just more and more tools all fitting together under this one platform has been wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. So, Mike, we've been talking about things like developer experiences, about the Fabric CI/CD pipelines, the integration, about the Fabric CLI. But I mean, rather than just listen to us, because obviously there's only a finite amount of information we can give in an hour, there's some docs there, there's some links on the screen, aka.ms links. So there's a link there to read more about the Fabric CI/CD document and the features that are there, and also notes about the Fabric CLI. So the Fabric CLI has come a long, long way as of the other stuff. And go away, read about it, ask your favorite LLM all about it, Copilot or whatever your favorite LLM is. I see Pam is in the chat as well. So Fabric Pam, she'll be answering a few questions. Remember, guys, we'd love to know where you're from, where you're using Fabric from, near and far. So put them in the chat, let us know. Right, Mike, what do you think of the documentation?
It's been amazing. I've getting ready for this presentation. I've went through every one of those blogs and docs. So no, it's fantastic. I don't know how they keep all this up to date with as many changes they're going through. I think I looked last month, there were 96 posts in the Fabric Updates blog, more than we've had in any month prior. So the features are flying out, and amazingly, they're keeping this documentation up to date. And again, tons of great stuff out there. Where you can see code samples. It's all there.
Yeah, great stuff. I see Pam has posted in the chat some of the links to the docs, which is absolutely fabulous. But Mike, this is part of the Fabric SQLCon recap series. So and there's a lot coming up. There's a lot happened.
Yeah.
So we've had on April the 2nd, which is 2 weeks away, takeaways from the community. And yeah, I think I just should call out to the community in general. There are some great blogs out there, people showing how you do things, like kind of augmenting that documentation and, making good use of people's time. The future of AI in Microsoft Fabric, data agents and beyond. You can watch that on YouTube. Maximizing developer experiences, which is this one. This will be on YouTube very shortly. Just some of the editing process got to go to. But Mike, what's coming up?
Oh yeah, what's coming up is going to be my favorite. Besides ours, Marty, is the roadmap for SQL ground to cloud tomorrow. That is what I'm really looking forward to. There's a ton of new stuff in SQL Server 2025. Vector indexes, and literally when they say ground to cloud, they mean you can run the same thing in SQL Server on-prem, Azure Arc, Azure SQL Server, Fabric. It's becoming like if you have skill in any of them, you have skills in all of them. So that is what I'm being a former DBA and developer. I'm really looking forward to that one.
That's right. Like ground to cloud, just one SQL experience. I'm very familiar from on-prem, VMs, SaaS, PaaS, whatever it is. Obviously, Fabric, SaaS, but very familiar environments. I'm like you. I've got my background in SQL, and I kind of find that to be a good staunch bit of code that you've got that you can take through and work with in Fabric. So I guess we're coming to the end, Mike. We've talked a bit about a lot of our developer experiences, but 2027, do you think you'll be at the Atlanta conference there?
I am confident that I will be at the Atlanta conference. That again, the experience last year, this year, last conference was amazing. I met so many people. This community is so amazing. So many of you out there in the chat. If you're new to the community, welcome. Just keep showing up at these Fabric live streams. Get to know some people here, and get to Atlanta next year. Or get to Barcelona.
Oh, Barcelona. Yeah. I guess there's if you're in Europe, get along to Barcelona, see it there. You don't have to travel to the US. I think this one been just announced. I seen a couple of days ago, maybe one coming to Asia. So pretty near where I am in Brisbane, Australia. So all these things are reaching out around the world, and you've got product teams, MVPs, just people generally from the community who know this stuff, who like talking, sharing ideas, and just turning up and being nice. And it's a great way to just meet people in general. But you live quite close, Mike, so you're a short drive from Atlanta, or not a short drive, maybe a couple of hours. I'm a bit further. Hopefully I'll be there, but if not, I'm sure I'll find one in around Asia. So it's a wrap up, and I think that was it. I think that basically brings us to the end, Mike.
Yeah. So a lot of I've been trying to keep track of the chat. I've been trying not to enter into it too much because I'm easily distracted by all the good conversations going on there. But glad to see again all the people that logged in and joined us, and all the great questions and all the great answers from our moderators.
Yeah. Okay. So that just leaves us to say, thanks Miles for joining. Thanks to our moderators sitting there answering all the questions. They've actually got the hard job, Mike. Yeah. But I'll just wrap up and I'll say goodbye from me, and thanks for joining, and hopefully see you again.
All right. Have a good night. Good day. All that. All right, bye.
Thank you all for joining, and thanks again to our speakers. This session is a part of a series. To register for future shows and watch past episodes on demand, you can follow the link on the screen or in the chat. We're always looking to improve our sessions and your experience. If you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find that link on the screen or in the chat. And we'll see you at the next one. you.